ingin banget mengundang dua narasumber yang sangat inspiratif, yang sangat aku hormatin. Yang pertama ada Pak Umesh Patke. Oh, mau foto aku dulu ya? Oke, baik, siap. Pak Umesh Patke, please take a seat. Pak Umesh ini bukan main ya. Backgroundnya is very strong at FMCG, 12 years in P&G and 11 years in L'Oreal. Betul Pak? Yes. So pernah di GlaxoSmithKline juga, and then tentunya sekarang the number 1% in L'Oreal Indonesia. Jadi tepuk tangan sekali lagi untuk Pak Umesh Patke. Yang kedua, nggak kalah keren, nggak kalah inspiratif, ada Pak Budiarto Halim. Silakan Pak. Jadi Pak Budiarto Halim ini punya gerainya tersebar di mana-mana. Kalau misalkan pernah kelihatan ada era phone di mall-mall terdekat, nah itu dimulai semuanya dari toko kios yang kecil ya Pak ya, sekarang sampai sudah ada di mana-mana. Jadi hari ini kita bakal banyak banget diskusi tentang apa aja, bagaimana sih bisa sampai berkembang seperti sekarang gitu. Oke, aku duduk dulu. Oke, selamat sore Pak Budiarto dan selamat sore Pak Umesh.
Sore.
Selamat jumpa, terima kasih udah hadir for the time, juga sangat happy. Aku mungkin pertama kali bertanya kepada Pak Budiarto Halim dulu ya. Anda merintis Era Jaya dari sebuah ruko, tadi aku bilang 7 kali 5 meter benar ya Pak ya, di Grogol ya Pak. Bisa gak sih Pak diceritakan perjalanan perusahaan bisa sampai sebesar ini, ngelewatin 98, 99, ngelewatin banyak krisis, itu gimana naik turun pasang surutnya Pak? Can you tell me about it?
Ya, pertama-tama selamat sore semuanya. Jadi perjalanan Era Jaya kalau saya bisa itu bagi 3 fase. Fase pertama itu dari masa berdirinya sampai dengan IPO tahun 2011. Dan setelah itu dari IPO sampai dengan pandemi ini dan post pandemi ini. Awalnya di masa berdirinya kita ada 2 milestone yang penting menurut saya. Satu itu dengan ditunjuknya oleh Era Jaya sebagai distributor Nokia. Di mana pada saat itu mungkin Nokia itu masih pendatang baru ya. Orang taunya Ericsson, Siemens, Motorola, NEC pada saat itu. Cuma Nokia pendatang baru, mungkin dia menunjuk kita yang pendatang baru juga gitu di industri ini. Dan itu milestone pertama yang kita tahu. Nokia kemudian ya intinya kita berlabuh di kapal yang besar. Jadi kita ikut Nokia pada saat itu tumbuh menjadi besar juga. Milestone kedua mungkin karena saya lihat Era Jaya juga timnya lumayan solid, kuat. Tim kita itu termasuk salah satu yang istilahnya tahan banting lah di industri telco pada saat itu. Dan milestone kedua itu kita ditunjuk oleh Indosat sebagai mitranya untuk distribusi voucher di GSM ya. Indosat sebagai pemain telco pertama, GSM pertama di Indonesia. Kemudian kita IPO di tahun 2011, itu ada beberapa milestone penting juga, yaitu dengan fokusnya Era Jaya di retail. Jadi awalnya kita mostly is distribution, kemudian kita melihat bahwa kita harus masuk ke retail. Setelah IPO kita fokus ke retail, dan dengan IPO juga tentunya dengan as a public listed company kita mendapatkan beberapa talent yang bagus ya, yang mau join dengan company kita. Itu sangat penting karena saya percaya bahwa orang itu aset paling penting di perusahaan. Kemudian dari fase terakhir ini yang post pandemic kita melakukan transformasi menjadi pemain multi industri. Kita ada masuk ke 4 vertikal ya, selain di handset dan komputer ya, kita masuk juga di beauty and wellness, kita masuk di food nourishment which is F&B dan groceries, kita masuk di active lifestyle, itu kemudian juga kita tetap fokus utama kita, core business kita itu di handphone, di toko handphone seperti Eraphone, iBox, dan Samsung, Huawei, Xiaomi, dan semuanya yang ada di Indonesia.
Jadi kejelian untuk melihat pasar, melihat potensi kali ya Pak ya. Sesuai dengan judulnya Triple Crown of Growth, Leadership, GCG, dan Fit Strategy. Tadi Pak Budiarto udah bilang kalau ketajaman mata dan talent ya yang akhirnya bisa melihat dan bisa membantu semua itu. Dan dari krisis-krisis yang kemarin, apa spesialnya COVID-19 Pak?
Dari mungkin kalau kita ingat krisis sejak era Jaya berdiri itu ada 3 krisis yang penting ya. Yaitu krisis moneter pertama di tahun 97, kemudian global financial crisis di tahun 2008, dan juga terakhir ini yang pandemic ini. Krisis 97 itu lebih berpengaruh terhadap exchange rate dan suku bunga bank ya. Dan bersyukurnya era Jaya pada saat itu kita leverage-nya sangat rendah. Jadi utang bank kita almost tidak ada. Sehingga dan untuk exchange rate kita bisa pass through ke consumer. Karena apapun yang kita beli memang pengaruhnya ya sales pasti turun. Karena harga akan naik. Global Financial Crisis tahun 2008, saya rasa pemerintah Indonesia sudah lebih siap pada saat itu. Sehingga impact terhadap dunia usaha itu lebih tidak separah tahun 97. Dengan adanya monitoring perbankan itu lebih bagus, kemudian devisa cadang devisa bagus, utang negara juga rendah, bagus, sehat semua. Saya rasa malah saya pikir tahun 2009 sudah recover. Even awal tahun 2009 sudah recover. Nah yang terakhir ini pandemik ini mempengaruhi semua sektor, bukan hanya harga barang, suku bunga, dan ini berpengaruh terhadap perilaku konsumen, cara konsumen belanja. Itu yang paling penting. Dan juga pengaruhnya itu terhadap supply and demand ya, karena kita tahu shortage of semiconductor karena pabrik-pabrik tutup. Ya, ini akan mempengaruhi terhadap harga. Ya, kita juga ada antisipasi suku bunga akan naik. Seperti yang berlaku di Amerika sudah naik, kita juga antisipasi itu. Jadi menurut saya impact dari pandemik ini mungkin akan lebih parah. Tapi kita tetap dari RJ kita optimis bahwa tidak akan lama. Kita yakin ekonomi Indonesia akan recover, tidak berlarut-larut.
Oke, mungkin ditahan dulu Pak. Aku pindah ke Pak Umesh dulu. During the pandemic, salon tutup semua Pak. Mall, pasar, toko, maksudnya all the government regulations require us to close all the offline stores, right?
Yeah.
Of course, it's influenced a lot in L'Oreal. What did you do to adapt? How fast you have to, make decisions?
Yeah. So before we go to that answer, I think Pabudi's answers were very good, and just want to compliment him about giving us the framework about Indonesia Fase 1, Fase 2, and Fase 3. And the way I see it, that is Indonesia 1.0, Indonesia 2.0, and we are now looking into Indonesia 3.0. So I think what the pandemic has done is that it has accelerated the transition of Indonesia from Indonesia 2.0 into Indonesia 3.0. Just before this panel, we had a panel sitting here that was talking NFT and cryptocurrency and all that. 5 years ago, you would have never thought of that happening in Indonesia. The image of Indonesia, for those who are stuck in the old world, is Indonesia, a large country of motorcycles, third or fourth largest motorcycle market in the world. What they don't know is that Indonesia is the only country in ASEAN which has unicorns. It is the largest country with venture capital funding. It is the biggest e-commerce market in the region. It is the largest market with smartphone and internet penetration. It is one of the fastest growing internet penetration and smartphone markets in the region. So, the Indonesia 3.0 is totally different from Indonesia 1.0. And the reason why I started with this was to give you a context of what we did with the pandemic. Yes, the pandemic did lead to a lot of crisis. But as a leader of the business, me and my management committee, for us, when we look at any crisis, we always see an opportunity. Di dalam semua krisis ada opportunity yang paling besar. Because our belief is the first thing, which is that the desire for beauty is eternal. Sampai kita hidup, kita bercita-cita kecantikan. Maybe I'm getting the grammar wrong, but I guess you will all understand that it is an eternal quest for beauty. We all want to look good and feel good. And which is why the business of L'Oreal is eternal. Yes, salons were closed, but the day the salons were closed, my general manager of professional products said something. COVID or no COVID, hair will keep growing. And COVID or no COVID, the woman who has gray hair, her roots will keep showing. So the moment she sits in front of her computer and turns on the Zoom screen, her friends are going to look at her and say, Melanie, what happened to your hair? And that is going to be the trigger for her to start consumption at home. So that was the first thing. We knew that there was going to be a demand for beauty products. We had to create the route to get to that. So how did we start? First responsibility was to take care of our employees. Caring for our employees was the first responsibility. So we went to work from home in March, and we didn't have to go to office earlier. When we went to work from home, we did not have to go to office because we were prepared for work from home from 2016. L'Oreal had a work from home policy since 2016. L'Oreal had converted 100% of the organization to laptops in 2018. So when 2020, the government said, work from home, we said, okay, tomorrow we work from home. We don't need to go to office. Everything is on the net. The second responsibility was to take care of our partners. We are great, not because we are great alone. We are great together. We are great because we have great partners working with us. And in case of salons, we are responsible for the development of the hair care industry in Indonesia. But the problem of the salons was that before the pandemic, they were stuck in Indonesia 1.0. For them, the consumer was important when she came to the salon. We told them the consumer will buy on digital. No, the consumer has to come here. So the salons were kind of, in the Indonesia 1.0 model. But when the salon got closed and their business was completely shut down, we were there to help them. What did we do? First, we lobbied with the government to get the salons open as soon as possible. Second, we told the salons, you don't need to pay us immediately. We delayed the payments for them. And we said, this is our hand of support. Please don't need to pay right now. Let the salon open and then you can start paying us. And the third thing, which is the most important thing we did, was we started training them on e-commerce, social commerce, digital training, etc. So a lot of salons started doing consultation on the phone. They turned on WhatsApp camera and started consulting consumers on the phone and started advising consumers what to do with their hair on the phone. This had never happened before, but for the first time that happened. And the salons came back. I know hairstylists who have come to my salespeople and started crying. First, because the salon was closed and they did not have business. And second, when the business restarted, they were overwhelmed with emotion, saying, you gave us the hand of support and you helped us move forward. So the key learning that we've got from the pandemic is a few things. First, I think, is any crisis always presents an opportunity. It is the responsibility of business leaders to be prepared for that and to be anticipatory enough. Pak Budi also used the word anticipasi. And, when it comes to Indonesia, I have a phrase which I use in my strategic documents. It is O plus O, O plus O, and A plus A. So what is the first O plus O? So I say, orang Indonesia yang paling optimis di dunia. Kalau kita lihat survei dari McKinsey bulan November tahun 2020, itu surveinya ada pertanyaan satu, bagaimana hal dunia masa depan setelah COVID? And ada 3 negara yang paling optimis di atas, China, India, dan Indonesia. The Indonesian consumers were optimistic about the world after the pandemic, during the pandemic. We are in the middle of the crisis. You go and ask the Indonesian, what will be the world after? Oh, inshallah, afterwards, everything will be fine. So that optimism is the number one thing. Yang kedua, opportunity. Indonesia, like I said, Indonesia 3.0 is land of opportunity. Frase 2, O plus O, which is online plus offline. Now, today there is a lot of talk about online, e-commerce is booming, exploding, etc., etc. Tapi menurut saya, Indonesia tidak bisa seperti China, 70% online, because 95% of Indonesians are engaged in UMKM. They are engaged in the service industry. We are a country of community. We like to go out. We like to engage with people. This event today gives me so much more energy than speaking on a screen. So Indonesia is a land of O plus O. Indonesia 1 was offline only. Indonesia 3.0 will be a country of O plus O. Consumers will chat on WhatsApp, get advice on WhatsApp, pick up in the store. Consumers could go to the store but get delivered stuff at home. Everyone will incorporate some e-element in their channel, but it is a country of O plus O. And the final one, which is an important thing for leaders, is anticipation and agility. Karena kalau pasarnya dinamis, pasarnya ada banyak opportunity, competition juga besar, ya. We are very fortunate that there is great competition in this country. But we are also very fortunate that there are great crises in this country. Pandemiknya itu krisis yang paling besar di dunia. But Indonesia has its own Indonesia-flavored crisis all the time. Jadi responsibility of leaders is to anticipate, be prepared, and yet not be rigid. Itu strategi saya. Jadi kalau strategi ini saya 3 tahun yang depan pasti follow strategi ini. That is not the way of Indonesia. The way of Indonesia is, today my strategy is to take care of this. Tomorrow will be different. I will modify my strategy. So anticipation and agility. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. A very good answer, Pak Umesh, because during the pandemic, during the crisis, every crisis is actually a test for leaders, right? How fast mereka bikin decision and all. Back to L'Oreal industry and business, do you have any pivot or maybe stop an expansion or maybe hard decisions to make right after the government announced that the pandemic is actually starting in Indonesia? Because I know the infrastructure is actually ready for L'Oreal employees to go work from home, but the whole bigger decision.
Yeah, so I think first, thank God we did not have to lay off any employees. We have almost 2,000 beauty advisors, and even though the stores were closed, we did not lay off any beauty advisors, because again, coming back to also what Pa Budi was talking about, the first thing that makes the business is great people. Building people takes time. You have to train them, you have to develop them, you have to develop loyalty, and all that takes a lot of time. It is very easy to fire people, but to build people over time takes a lot of time. So the thing that we have worked on is transforming people. Again, going back to the point of anticipation and agility. First, even before the crisis started, we were ready with e-commerce in our company. I recruited the first, second, third, fourth, fifth. The first 10 people in our e-commerce team were recruited by me personally in 2016 and 17 when e-commerce was zero. We had 0.1, 0.2% of our business on e-commerce. And everyone was asking the question at that time, why are we having so many people on e-commerce? Indonesia will never be e-commerce. And then when the pandemic struck, everyone says, wow, you had such vision and all that. No, it's not vision. We saw what was happening around the world and we knew it will happen in Indonesia. Young country, digital country, it will happen. So that was anticipation. But then we cannot train our beauty advisors on e-commerce in the old era. Stores closed down, beauty advisors were sitting at home, so we created a training program for them for multiple things. First, how to consult on WhatsApp. Second, how to create content on Instagram, TikTok, digital content. Because our beauty advisors are our brand ambassadors and they are in touch with consumers. So they should be as modern, as up to date. They should be, we have 2,000 beauty advisors, they are 2,000 influencers. So that's something that we've done. So there's so much we've done, and there were some channels which suffered, like department stores, because they were closed. But we also, again, I go back to the fact that Indonesians like to go out. Yeah. They like to be together. And we are a hot country. So when you go out, where are you going to go? You cannot go to Kebun Raya all the time. You have to go to an air-conditioned place. An air-conditioned place means mall, which means the stores will come back. We just have to be patient. We have to ride through the crisis and people will come back.
Nice, thank you for the answer. Going back to Pak Budi. Menurut Pak Budi, tadi we talk about leaders during crisis gitu ya Pak ya. Kalau menurut definisi Pak Budi, gimana sih seorang pemimpin harus bersikap dalam krisis gitu. Aku sempat baca di interview di Fortune Magazine, Anda mengatakan bahwa muncul inisiatif baru justru banyak dari karyawan nih, bukan dari manajemen gitu. Seperti pengiriman produk ke rumah gitu. Gimana sih Pak ceritanya gimana caranya karyawan ini akhirnya bisa menyampaikan ide tersebut gitu kepada manajemen atau leadersnya?
Oke, I want to reiterate what Pak Umesh say. Seorang menghadapi krisis ini, seorang leader itu masih anticipate and agility. I think there's dua kata yang sangat penting ya, sangat anticipate dan agility. Kita harus mengantisipasi dan harus siap untuk berubah, adaptasi terhadap segala perubahan di iklim dunia usaha ini. Nah, jadi dari saya setuju sekali Pak Umesh. Untuk mengenai, dan kedua juga kita harus, menurut saya harus mendengar, open our ears, encourage, and suara-suara dari tim kita. Karena mereka itu yang di lapangan, mereka yang lebih tahu, mereka interact langsung dengan consumer. Kita kadang-kadang di office kita tidak tahu apa yang terjadi. So we should learn, we should listen. Nah, inisiatif dari Era Express ini terjadi di masa pandemik ini karena biasanya sebelum pandemik kita ada online store kita ya, kita ada erafone.com, ibox.co.id dan selainnya lewat Shopee, Tokopedia dan sebagainya. Cuman pada masa pandemik yang toko-toko PPKM di mall tidak boleh buka. Karyawan ya seperti dengan Pak Umesh, kita juga tidak lay off anyone. Kita mempertahankan karyawan kita semua. Cuman ya bisnis harus jalan. Mereka juga, some of them is based on incentive. Jadi mereka mengusulkan paling bagus itu ya kita melakukan yang namanya catalog mobile shopping. Catalog mobile shopping itu melalui WhatsApp. Ini paling cepat, lebih cepat growth dan yang lebih membedakan dari Era Express ini karena yang delivery itu orang sales kita yang dari toko ke rumah konsumen, bukan melalui third party logistik seperti Gojek, GoSend, Grab yang hanya deliver ke rumah kemudian tinggalin. Kalau tim sales kita deliver ke rumah bisa membantu untuk setup handphone atau komputer, bisa kasih tips and trick, ngajarin kalau konsumennya agak sedikit gaptek, Kemudian dan juga bisa upselling, bisa membawa aksesoris, screen protector, casing dan sebagainya. Nah, ini yang bagi konsumen lumayan percaya karena bukan hanya terima barang dari pintunya kemudian ditinggal. Ya, itu yang sangat membantu Era Jaya di masa-masa pandemi ini.
Penting banget orang lapangan itu Pak ya. Gimana sih untuk bisa, tadi aku penasaran karena memang betul yang turun ke lapangan yang tahu sebenarnya konsumennya kayak gimana gitu. Tapi akhirnya bisa mengeluarkan tradisi bahwa semua orang boleh speak up, semua orang harus kasih ide. Itu tuh gimana sih how to trigger those kind of culture in your company?
Di kita itu ada beberapa corporate value. Kita ada namanya istilah I lead. Kita salah satu itu mereka itu harus inovasi. Semua karyawan bisa inovasi. Setiap tahun kita akan adakan acara namanya Era Jaya Achievement Award. Di mana semua karyawan bisa secara individual maupun secara tim membuat suatu usulan. Satu perubahan yang bisa membawa benefit untuk semua, untuk perusahaan. Dan kita kasih award, kita kasih juara. Dan peminatnya banyak sekali. Kadang-kadang kita terlalu banyak peminat, kita geser ke tahun berikutnya. Karena jurinya itu para board of directors. Mereka itu kembangkan ide dan juga tentunya di guide oleh directors atasannya langsung. Di guide juga ide ini untuk dikembangkan. Ini yang culture ini kita sudah develop sudah lama sekali. Semua leader harus membimbing timnya supaya bisa innovation. Karena innovation bukan hanya di leader, itu berlaku untuk semua layer.
Ya, thank you for the answer. Menarik banget ya, maksudnya ternyata award itu sangat pengaruh ya untuk bisa men-trigger ide-ide baru dari karyawan gitu ya Pak. Jadi nggak ada batas, mau dia staff baru masuk kemarin juga dia bisa untuk memberikan ide tersebut ya Pak ya?
Ya, tidak ada batas dan award ini sebenarnya juga satu achievement buat karyawan bersangkutan. Juga buat mereka itu kebanggaan juga untuk timnya dan juga untuk divisinya.
Nice, thank you Pak. What about you Umesh? I heard the culture in L'Oreal also is very open. Can you explain more about that?
Yeah, but before I go there, I think Pak Budi has talked about a great point, which is delivery, setup, etc. And this is in fact a great point talking about one, consumer insight, and second, driving value in a business that can become extremely price competitive. And at my house there are two consumers, myself and my wife. If I was to buy a phone, I would just want the phone to come home and I will do everything on my own. And if my wife was to buy a phone, she would want someone from Pak Budi's store to stand next to her every week to explain to her, okay, now you can do this, and now this is the upgrade, and now this. So, the insight that is there about how to understand different consumers and how to drive value in a pandemic that can destroy the value of your business, or in a channel competition like e-commerce where it can destroy the price value of the brand, is a very important thing, especially in Indonesia. It is important to get into the consumer's mindset and really provide great value. So, it was a fantastic insight. As far as culture for L'Oreal is concerned, I think I'm very, very proud to say that we have among the highest rates of engagement and enablement in Indonesia, within my region and also in the world. During the pandemic, we already had, even before the pandemic, our culture scores were pretty high. And I was worried that in the pandemic, we might not improve our scores. But 2020, we got our highest scores ever. And then in 2021, we were worried, said, highest score ever now. From the top, you can only go down a little bit. And the organization surprised us by getting even better in 21. So now the pressure from my boss is 22, it has to be even better than 21. But that's the thing about L'Oreal. What are some of the things that we do? I think first, I think we have a culture that is defined as knowledge, that I can define as knowledge-based leadership. That's the first foundation of what I drive in the company. The one who has the knowledge is the leader. So the person in the store. So when I go to the store, the beauty advisor in the store is more knowledgeable than I am. I am there to understand the business. So in being knowledgeable is extremely important. The second one is about being transparent. We like to hear bad news before we hear good news. We want to make sure, because the rule of leadership is I am here to solve your problems. I am not here to clap for you. I am not here to hear good news. So that's the second one. The third one is about being consistent, and because consistency helps us deliver results. And the fourth one is about being passionate. We want to be passionate in our business. We are in the beauty care business, and there is not a single place on earth where I have gone and told people I work for L'Oreal and they have not looked at me and smiled. Men, women, anywhere in the world. I was in Papua meeting nurses in a remote location, and they introduced, this is a brain surgeon, this is a philanthropist, this is a big guy. And then I was standing in the corner and they said, he's the president director of L'Oreal. And all the nurses go, wow. And that is something that inspires passion to go to office, to work, and make something different every day.
Karena usaha itu akhirnya di Indonesia, L'Oreal Indonesia merupakan salah satu market top 3, market terbesar di L'Oreal Indonesia ya. Tepuk tangan dong buat Pak Umesh. So, how is your strategy to be, sekarang sudah top 3. The next one is top 1, right? So
I think first strategy is, of course, to be consumer centric. We have, like you saw in the video, 36 global brands, the largest research and innovation labs in the world. So we have the power of L'Oreal behind us. What is the value that I and my team are going to add to the global L'Oreal business? That is by understanding the Indonesian consumer. So we are very closely monitoring the Indonesian consumer all the time and presenting the needs of Indonesia to the global team all the time to make sure that the products, brands, everything that we are selling in Indonesia is suitable for them. One example I can give you is about the hijab wearing consumer in Indonesia. So if we look from a Western standpoint, this is the standard standpoint. Woman is wearing the hijab, so she's more conservative, she's usually at home, not a big beauty consumer, etc., etc.
Yeah.
But that is totally wrong. In Indonesia, the hijab wearer is richer, a bigger consumer of beauty care products. She is very fashion involved, very modern, very highly educated. So this is the research that we've done and presented, and as a result of that, today we have products that are suitable for hijab wearing consumers. We have marketing that is suitable for hijab wearing consumers. So first strategy is consumer centricity. Second strategy is employee centricity, which I've spoken about, building the greatest talent workforce that I have. Today, my big focus is to export Indonesian talent to the world of L'Oreal. We already have about 15 Indonesians working in mid to senior positions, and one day I'm hoping there will be an Indonesian sitting in my place over here running Indonesia. So amen to that. And the third one I would say is sustainability, which is extremely important for the future survival, not just of our business, but of the earth. And that's something that we are very focused on. 3 big pillars that I am personally involved in on sustainability. First is carbon and water usage reduction. We have a big factory, and that will soon be carbon neutral and water neutral. The second one is trash reduction. So Garnier, we are working on a program of e-recycle for collecting plastic trash. And I think we have now collected more than 100 tons of trash just in the past few months. And our aim is to collect a lot more. And the third one is empowering Indonesian women who are from underprivileged backgrounds to stand on their own feet. So we have almost 1,000 women who we have trained to become hairdressers in Indonesia. Thank you.
So it come all in cycle ya Pak ya. Okay, the next one will be Pak Budiarto. Before we move on to Q&A, nggak cuma L'Oreal nih teman-teman yang 2021 kemarin banyak prestasinya. Tahun lalu Era Jaya mencatatkan rekor dengan laba melampaui 1 triliun rupiah. versus 612 miliar di 2020. Apa nih pendorongnya? Lagi pandemi orang susah malah Era Jaya ada rekor nih, gimana Pak?
Oke, mungkin pertama-tama saya cuma bilang I wish that most of our customers is like your wife. So mungkin yang pendorong utama itu karena di tahun 2021 ini kita membuka hampir 300 outlet baru. Outlet baru ini kita buka mostly itu street level. Sebelumnya pandemic ini kita buka mostly di mall karena trafficnya sudah ada. Easy to get the traffic in the mall. Tapi karena pandemi kita lihat PPKM mall tutup. Nah kita harus berpikir cara gimana kita buka di street level. Street level ini memang ada tergantung daerah yang bisa buka, ada yang masih tutup. Tapi kontribusinya luar biasa. Satu itu. Kedua, tentu juga adanya memang di tahun 2020 pemerintah Indonesia melakukan IMEI control. Dengan ada IMEI control kita melihat bahwa competition di market lebih stable, lebih bagus. Kalau kita compete with same playing field tapi kita bisa lawan. Tapi kalau dengan different playing field di mana ada beberapa yang tidak membayar pajak, ya kita nggak bisa lawan. Nah dengan ada IMEI control kita juga bisa lihat bahwa our sales itu increase dan yang paling penting profitability marginnya itu terjaga. Kemudian kita juga lihat bahwa ada ya perubahan consumer behavior which is ada yang work from home, school from home, itu demand terhadap gadgets dan termasuk handphone dan komputer itu meningkat pesat. Jadi impact dari ini sales kita juga lumayan.
Oke, thank you Pak for the answer. Mungkin aku buka floor untuk pertanyaan, mungkin 2 pertanyaan dulu. Silakan yang Bapak yang baju hitam dulu, silakan boleh ke tengah, ke mic-nya. Nanti disebutkan nama dari perusahaan apa dan mau tujukan pertanyaan kepada siapa. Terima kasih.
Okay, selamat sore. Good afternoon. My name is Melvin Bonardo. I'm from LSPR Jakarta. I'm a lecturer. I just want to ask to Mr. Umesh. I want to know more about L'Oreal is one of the big and favorite company for our students. Most of our students are female and girls who wants to look good, refer to your desire of a beauty is eternal. My questions, how L'Oreal support the Z millennials on your company through your business and program to create or develop their leadership, GCG and fit strategy. Thank you.
Thank you. Pertama, saya di kantor saya ada 50% male, 50% female. Jadi we are very, very gender balanced. And L'Oreal is not just a company for women. It is a very strong misconception that L'Oreal is a company for women. L'Oreal is a company for both genders. I have some men working on makeup. Men can sell makeup. I have been working in L'Oreal for 11 years, and I can talk about makeup much better than many women can talk about makeup, but that's a part. So that's number one. Now, how do we support our employees during the pandemic? I think first is, I said that building employees for the future and creating a task force, creating a workforce that will help us grow is one of the most important responsibilities of leadership. So during the pandemic, we changed our training and development program completely from being offline to online. And as a result of that, we were able to train people for more hours than we were able to train them before. Think about it. In the past, if you wanted to do a training, you had to schedule it, everyone had to come to class, everyone had to sit there and get trained. But when you are doing it online, you can do hybrid. You have some lectures which are already recorded and other exercises which can be together, and that enabled us to improve the efficiency of our training program And moving forward, we will not have 100% offline training programs. We'll have hybrid training programs. So if I remember correctly, pre-pandemic, we were doing something like, let's say X hours of training per employee per year. During the pandemic, we increased that by 20%. Second, we also introduced programs like Coursera to L'Oreal people, and L'Oreal is a subscriber of Coursera, and employees are free to choose whatever program they want to take part in and get certificates for that. These are paid programs that are paid by L'Oreal, and there is no restriction. You can learn about French language, you can learn about global politics, you can learn about data management, you can learn about warehousing, you can learn anything on Coursera, and L'Oreal will pay for it, and it is 100% free. So that is the second thing that we are doing about training people. The third one is, I said our strategy is O plus O, which is offline plus online. And we cannot, once we see this, then we cannot create two classes of people. There is the people who do offline work and there is the people who do online work. We want to create a task force that is offline plus online. So in the past 3 years, we have moved a lot of people who were doing work in Indomaret, distributors, other channels into our online team. And we have moved people from online into our offline team, because customers like Indomaret, Sogos, everyone wants to do online and wants to learn from online. So today my sales force is very mixed, and I can pick up a sales guy and put him in offline, pick up another sales guy and put him in online, and everything is seamless. So that's how we are developing the organization. Thank you.
Thank you Pak Elmes. Oke, the next one ada yang hitam juga di sebelahnya, silakan di tengah. Seperti biasa, sebutkan nama, bekerja di mana.
Biasanya kalau saya di stage pasti ada pertanyaan dari wanita, karena itu L'Oreal, jadi.
Kan gender neutral.
Just kidding.
Baik, selamat sore.
Oke, silakan.
Karena saya bukan wanita, jadi pertanyaannya untuk Bapak Halim. Bapak Halim, saya sangat terinspirasi dari Bapak dan saya pengen bertanya. Bapak kan membangun bisnis dari kecil ya, katanya tadi dari ruko kecil bahwa sekarang sudah punya ratusan gerai sampai beromset fantastis gitu. Nah yang mau saya tanyakan adalah, how did you bring your business stronger and bigger gitu? Bagaimana apa tips yang Bapak lakukan? Apakah Bapak mengambil one step at a time, langkah demi langkah, atau langsung melangkahi 2-3 anak tangga sampai ke puncak seperti ini? Apa tips praktis yang bisa Bapak berikan untuk saya sebagai pebisnis pemula atau teman-teman yang lain yang bisa kami aplikasikan supaya bisa sebesar Era Jaya? Terima kasih.
Oke, saya rasa seperti tadi saya jelaskan dari awal, itu ada 3 fase dari awal pendirian kita. Mungkin bagi saya untuk bisnis besar itu seperti tadi Pak Umes bicara bahwa ini kesempatan paling bagus sebenarnya saat-saat ini, di mana di setiap krisis there's an opportunity. Tapi harus seize that opportunity dan lakukan inovasi. Jangan lakukan seperti kebanyakan orang lakukan, which is sekarang ini era disruptive innovation ya. Kalau kita melakukan seperti orang umum lakukan, ya we cannot win. We have to find something. Teknologi, infrastructure, dan human capital itu sangat penting dalam menumbuhkan bisnis. Ini 3 yang harus terus difokuskan. Dan yang paling tidak kalah penting yang menurut saya ini, saya mau bicarakan itu harus jaga keadaan keuangan perusahaan. Jaga leverage, debt equity ratio, working capital management, OPEX, itu harus dijaga terus, dimonitor terus. Apalagi di saat-saat seperti ini, kita harus selalu anticipate, seperti ya. Untuk opportunity, saya rasa Indonesia itu sangat besar. Indonesia itu population luar biasa, and middle class-nya very big, GDP is high. So find that opportunity di masa-masa ini, ambil opportunity itu dan grow it. I think that's it.
Thank you Pak Budi. Jadi in summary, agility and anticipation is very important for both the talents and the business itself. Karena talentsnya kalau udah agile, pasti bisnisnya juga ikutan agile gitu ya. And then the second one itu adalah kalau ada krisis pasti ada opportunity. Jadi jangan sedih, jangan takut, jangan putus asa dulu kalau emang ada krisis. Mesti jeli, mesti lihat bareng-bareng, berkumpul, cari ide, gimana caranya supaya bisa trigger a lot of ideas dari semua teman-teman tim sehingga bisa keluarin inovasi-inovasi baru. Dan yang terakhir adalah consumer insight, gimana bisnis kita bisa menjawab kebutuhan dan problem dari consumer bisnisnya teman-teman semua dan tentunya untuk Era Jaya dan juga untuk L'Oreal. It's very wonderful to have the time to talking with you both. Thank you for the time dan mungkin karena waktu kita tutup sesinya. Kemudian ada pesan sponsor nih guys. Terima kasih semuanya, terima kasih Pak Budi sebagai CEO Era Jaya, Swasembada, juga Fortune Indonesia Business Person of the Year Pak Umesh. Kemudian thank you Pak Umesh, Presiden Direktur L'Oreal Indonesia. Dan kepada audiens semuanya jangan kemana-mana karena setelah ini masih ada satu sesi terakhir yang merupakan sesi penutup. Dan diisi oleh 3 orang Fortune Indonesia 40 under 40. Jadi menarik banget, thank you again for the time Pak.
Terima kasih banyak Ibu Sylvie, luar biasa sekali yang sudah menjadi moderator di sesi talk show ke-7 ini. Dimohon berkenan kepada seluruh narasumber untuk tetap berada di atas panggung karena akan ada pemberian tanda apresiasi yang akan langsung diberikan oleh Ibu Sylvie kepada seluruh narasumber. Dan untuk yang pertama, tanda apresiasi ini akan diberikan kepada Bapak Budiarto Halim selaku CEO PT Era Jaya Tbk yang juga menjadi bagian dari Toko Business Person of the Year Fortune Indonesia. Dan boleh silahkan difoto. Dan untuk yang kedua, tanda apresiasi ini juga akan diberikan kepada Bapak Umesh Padke selaku Presiden Direktur L'Oreal Indonesia yang tentunya sudah bersedia hadir dalam acara ini, luar biasa sekali. Dimohon berkenan narasumber dan moderator bisa berfoto bersama, kami persilakan. Nah, untuk bisa berada di tengah panggung. Baik, seperti Ibu Sylvie di tengah ya, paling cantik sendiri. Baik, 1, 2, 3.